Hi again then guys, and so we've got another special projects replica style build for you today, and this time it's a slightly simpler replica than some of the ones which we do. This is primarily a performance and mechanical replica rather than a visual one, and it's a replica for the Renault Clio 182, which is of course not featured on the game. We have the slightly less powerful but also slightly lighter version on the game, the Clio RS. We are though replicating, as I said, the 182. Now, this particular model doesn't have a huge amount of visual changes that we can do on the game. As you can see, I have made some changes. I've painted it blue, French blue in particular, and I've changed the rims to these Enki JS&M rims and painted those white. But apart from that, that's all I've done visually. So, we'll go straight over to the mechanical side of things for the replica there, and then of course take it out to a track as we always do to see how the car performs overall. Now, as always, of course, I do like to, if at all possible, round off my builds to the nearest relevant PP, and in this case that's 410, so pretty low, quite a lot lower than most of the replicas that I would do. Now, I've gone for sport soft tyres because of course it is more of a street based build, but that's down to personal preference. It does have racing brakes, but it shouldn't. It should be stock on this one. I'm not sure why I left those on. For the suspension, I've got the ride height on 120, front and rear. The springs have increased just a little to 475 and 250. The dampers and anti-roll we've left on 3. We've got neutral camber and toe. We'll come back to the gearbox in just a second. Likewise with the brakes, we've left the clutch and flywheel stock to make it feel more authentic. As far as the diff, I've gone for the lowest initial torque with the highest acceleration and braking to help with turn-in. As far as power, we're running the same horsepower as the real vehicle, 182 horsepower, and to get that is actually fairly simple, but I wanted to increase its PP as well, because you can get this power at about 402 PP, but I wanted to round it off and round it up. So I've gone for the Stage 1 engine tune, sports computer and intake tuning, and then reduce the power down to 81%. And as far as the weight, you've got a couple of different options. The actual car weighs 1,090 kilos, so technically all you need to do is add a little bit of ballast. What I've opted to do though is to have more weight loss and then compensate with that with even more ballast and put that all the way to the back to vastly improve the weight distribution. But technically that's not accurate to the real car, so you don't have to do that, and it doesn't really affect your PP that much anyway. As far as the gearbox, we are running the real ratios. The real car is a 5-speed, so basically just don't use 6th. And as far as the gears, in order to hit the actual ratios, you need to take your auto setting as high as possible and then do a gearbox flip at 2.9. So take that down to 2.9 on the final drive, then come back up to your auto setting, click it down and up a peg, then come back and you can reach these individual gears of 346, 187, 124, 97, 800, and then it doesn't really matter on 6th, but I put it to 700, and then change your final drive to 419. And that's overall for the replica build, but now let's of course take it out to a test track to let it prove itself. Now overall, of course, this isn't going to be some brain-meltingly quick track car. It's just not that kind of replica build. This is more about the fun of driving, and even though it's not the most powerful of hatches, it does definitely feel quicker than the standard car. It has that fun factor and the slightly more focused handling in particular that the 182 is appropriate to. It should feel like that. So overall, if you do decide to use this build and replica of the 182 Sport Clio, obviously I hope you find it fun, maybe even competitive at the 410 PP level, but I don't think many people really race at that level. But if you do, obviously I hope you win, and if you would like to keep up with other builds like this in the future, be sure to hit subscribe down below for that. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.